I'm going to show you a thriller heist movie from 2006, Inside Man. Speaking into the camera, Dalton Russell is heard boasting that he carried out a sophisticated bank heist at a Wall Street bank and was able to escape unnoticed by walking out the front door. The only remaining question is how exactly he accomplished it. He may be seen driving up to the master painters for the Manhattan Trust Bank with his crew. Felton then enters the bank first and destroys the cameras. With their well-thought-out strategy, they can quickly go from locking the entrance to getting everyone inside the bank to the ground. When a police officer approaches the bank because he notices flames coming from it, Dalton emerges and informs him that he is being held hostage before he can finish the conversation, and he'll start murdering the police if they approach the door. And full barrage of NYPD Blue rushes to the site once the officer calls it, rapidly evaluating the situation, putting up security measures, and closing off the entire street. The owner of the Manhattan Trust, Arthur Case, is simultaneously told of the location of the hostage-taking at one of his bank's branches. Case becomes highly anxious after hearing the news. He thus phones Madeline White, a high-powered broker, to help him find a solution to save his priceless family treasures that are kept in a safety deposit box at that bank. She does, however, lay down one condition: if he decides to tell her what's inside the box, even though he is under no obligation to, and she discovers that he has been lying to her. Fraser and Mitchell, two detectives on the hostage negotiation team. Fraser is a seasoned police officer who is much too intelligent to work for the force. In order to speak with Captain Darius, who is in command of the situation, the investigators are seen running to the bank. He informs them that no one is yet aware of the precise number of suspects or hostages present in the bank. Darius is told by Fraser that he may take charge of the murder scene and that soon he gets more specific information. The thieves segregate the hostages into bank personnel on one side and everyone else on the other side before lining them up in the safe room. The hostages are told by Dalton to remove their keys and phones from their pockets or purses and hold them in the air for his buddy to grab. One of the bank workers claims to be awake at home but refuses to hand over his mobile phone. Dalton doesn't think he's real. He then dials the phone, showing that it was left at his office, and discovers that it has his number saved on fast dial. When Dalton learns of this, he drags the guy to the office and brutally beats him to make a good example of him for the other employees. A guy offers Dalton his keys after he leaves the area covered in blood, and a youngster hands him his video game system, which the robber urges him to keep. Dalton then rearranges the captives once again, ordering them to strip to their underwear and line up according to gender. Everyone does it except for an elderly woman, so his female accomplice takes her to another room while he gives the other captives instructions on how to don the suits and masks that are being distributed. Later, a seasoned prisoner who works for the bank starts to feel ill and reveals that he has a heart ailment. He is immediately taken down by the police after being released by Dalton and one of his accomplices. He informs them that he was sent out to warn them not to approach the bank or he would throw out two dead corpses. As they make their way through the bank, past the safe and the safe deposit boxes, and finally halting in a back room with office supplies, the thieves check on the other captives. The investigator believes that it is still too early to contact the robber. When the police view the video from the bank's security cameras, they can see how the thieves were able to disconnect every single one of them. Madeline simultaneously approaches the mayor of New York and requests a major favor from him. She explains to him that she is keeping an eye on the hostage situation at the bank on behalf of a customer and requests that he bring the police inside so she may do her duties in peace. Although Madeline persists, the mayor concedes that it is impossible and grants her the favor. Another captive was released by the criminals with a note for the police attached to him. This has been the norm for the police officers. They disregard the man's faith by pulling off his turban since they perceive him to be a Sikh but believe him to be an Arab terrorist. They carry him away pretty violently, and Fraser and the others afterwards saw him in the restaurant being questioned about what he had witnessed. The Sikh becomes understandably furious, and it takes great persuasion to get him to discuss what has been happening in the bank. 2 buses and a jumbo plane must be supplied by 9 o'clock at the thieves' request. 1 hostage will be killed every hour if the police don't meet the deadline. Suddenly, others entered the vehicle asking if he could help and for information about the demands of the thieves. The elderly guy offers to set up a jet for the police once they inform him that they need one. When the thieves later demand food, the police get a chance to bug the bank and record what they say. When Fraser inquires about a specific listening device she has there, the cop in charge of the tapping device suggests they use pizzas so that people may gather around the food and chat more. Finally, the meal delivery order shows up at the bank, and Fraser supervises the delivery while introducing himself to Dalton. Dalton remains silent. They later hear the audio coming from inside the bank and notice that people are chatting in a different language, so they assume it must be Russian. Mitchell is sent by Fraser to ask the captives whether they noticed any Russian or Russian accents while they were there. They learn that the language on the recording is Russian from a police officer of Russian descent. Fraser has the bright idea to play the audio over the speaker and find someone who can identify the language from among the onlookers outside. Because his ex-wife was born in Albania, the construction worker identifies the language as Albanian and comes forward with the information. The construction worker is then instructed by Fraser to phone his ex-wife. When the lady comes, she is tasked with listening to the audio and reporting back to Fraser what it says. She informs them that it is Enver Hoxha, the former communist leader of Albania. The moment the cops realize they've been listening to a random recording because the thieves were aware they were going to bug them. In the meanwhile, Dalton can be seen in the safe and near the money in a succession of sporadic pictures from the bank, raising doubts about whether they are indeed there for the money. He and one of his companions are afterwards spotted accessing a safe deposit box. Along with the papers they seem to have been originally wanting, it also includes diamonds, little baggies, and a jewelry box. Dalton takes the paper as the other person reseals the box. The mayor and Madeline arrive in front of the bank. She swiftly gives Fraser a brief explanation of why she is there when he introduces them. Madeline and the mayor persuade the investigator to accept their offer of assistance. Later, Dalton calls Fraser on the phone for the first time. Dalton repeats their demands again and over while threatening to murder hostages if they aren't satisfied by the deadline he set. Dalton accepts Fraser's offer of additional food but requests sandwiches. The criminals finished excavating the hole in the supply room, which will play a significant role in how the heist is carried out. Dalton is persuaded by what she says to him to believe they should speak face to face. Madeline tells Fraser that she got where she is by accumulating friends, not enemies. When she arrives at the bank, she is searched before speaking with Dalton. Madeline offers him the contents of the safe deposit box in exchange for a brief jail term and $2 million when he is released. Dalton makes it apparent that he is aware of Madeline's employer and that Case, who worked in Switzerland during World War II, was a Nazi collaborator. He informs her that he will be keeping it as a promise that she and her boss would assist him in escaping if he is identified as the robber when Evelyn exits the bank if he is arrested for the heist. She just wanted to go to the safe deposit box, leading him to show her what he discovered inside. She tells Fraser in an off-the-record chat that she has another proposition for him to think about. When Fraser inquires about her opinion on Dalton, Madeline responds that he is intelligent and not a killer. And the following scene shows Fraser entering the bank when he contacts him and offers to give him his plane in exchange for permission to first inspect the captives. When he sees the kid, he is escorted to the captive rooms, where he discovers that they are all still alive and well. When he requests to take the boy out with him before leaving, he is refused. He assures the prisoners that he will kill every last one of them. Fraser grabs him and attempts to remove his mask as they approach the door, but one of the others stops him in time. Dalton is furious with him and requests the buses once again. When Darius phones him again and urges him to position their cameras towards the window, Fraser assures him that Dalton isn't a murderer and that they should wait to see what he does. Once they've done it, they watch on tape as Dalton kills a captive while holding him at gunpoint. As a result, Fraser loses his position as the case's leader. Before the police can enter, Dalton tosses smoke grenades in response to hearing that, allowing them to free the captives from their bag. As soon as everyone leaves, the tactical squad subdues them and takes everyone into custody. The tactical squad then enters the bank to drive away the thieves and look for any potential corpses. The tactical team leader informs Fraser, Mitchell, and Darius that they didn't discover the hostage's corpse and that nothing was stolen from the bank when they descended. So, after a while, Fraser's captain informs him that the case has been closed. Although Fraser didn't anticipate it, he also won't be forgetting it. Dalton is ultimately shown explaining how he was able to pull off a theft a week after the crime. Behind a makeshift wall they constructed in the supply room within the bank, he was concealing himself. Dalton is in possession of the diamonds, ring, and paper. He exits his hiding place by breaking through the side wall, enters the bank, and acts like any other customer. Dalton runs into Fraser as he exits the bank, but he is unfamiliar to him. With a court order, Fraser enters the bank and opens the safe deposit box. Inside, he discovers chewing gum, the Cartier ring, and a letter that reads, "Follow the ring." Please subscribe so you can see more content like this. Thank you for watching.